Hey, what's up? Following my intro to Obsidian video, I'd like to share a few little tips I found for those of you more experienced with the application. Here are 5 little tricks or shortcuts that I've discovered. Let's get into it. Number 5, resizing equations. For those of you who are unaware, Obsidian supports LaTeX. That means that you can integrate equations into your nodes, like this craziness, where you may already see the problem. Inline equations are 1 line tall, which means that a subscript on a superscript is almost unreadably tiny. Fortunately, Markdown allows us to compose syntax together, which means that an equation can be part of a paragraph, or a quote, or a heading. You'll notice that equations do not receive the bolded effect from the heading formatting, which means that it merely boosts the relative size, which really helps the legibility. Incidentally, this trick also works with bulleted lists. Number 4, the attachment folder. Last time, I talked about taking lecture notes in Obsidian, and in 2021, that means taking lots and lots of screenshots of Zoom slides. Unfortunately, this tends to litter the sidebar with automatically named screenshot files. Obsidian's release valve for this problem is the attachment folder, which can be designated by right-clicking on an existing folder and choosing it as the attachment folder. I tend to name it Assets. Once designated, this folder will automatically absorb any media which you drag and drop into Obsidian, which really helps with decluttering the workspace. Number 3, multi-column browser. Organizing your notes in Obsidian can be hard, particularly if you have a lot of them. Taking the note at the bottom of the sidebar all the way up to the folder at the top requires number 1, a firm grip on the mouse, and number 2, treasure hunting skills as you try to find the one region in the sidebar that will make it scroll up painfully slowly. There are 2 solutions to this problem. Number 1, we could organize stuff in the native file system, which is fine, but if you don't want to leave Obsidian, we can use some custom CSS. Specifically, we're going to borrow this portion of the Ubuntu community theme and turn it into a CSS snippet in our vault. To make a snippet, copy the CSS, link in the show notes, and paste it into a something.css file in the snippets folder, which can be located at the bottom of the appearances section of preferences. And ta-da, multi-column browser, which makes it much easier to move notes vast distances within your vault. Number 4, keyboard commands. Maybe this one is obvious, but I think it's worth mentioning anyway. Obsidian allows you to rebind keyboard commands. The thing is, lots of its functions have no default binding, so it's not so much rebinding commands as it is enabling them. Maybe this is due to Obsidian being in early development, maybe this is due to it trying to keep consistency across 5 different platforms, but I was actually a little bit disappointed by Obsidian's comparatively small number of keyboard commands and its relatively tiny menu bar. For reference, here are some of the commands that I bound and the keyboard bindings that I use for them. Number 1, open another vault, Shift Command O. Number 2, split the pane horizontally or vertically. In combination with the Command E shortcut, which allows you to toggle modes, this can allow you to replace the Shift Command click option to open in a new pane without having to reach for the mouse, which can break flow. Navigation between panes, again without using the mouse, could be done with Option up, down, left, or right, or alternatively with Control Command up, down, left, right. The reason you might want to avoid using the Option keys is because of the following. Swapping lines up and down. This is a fantastic keyboard command because it allows you to shift text around the document without overwriting what's in the clipboard. You may be familiar with it from Visual Studio Code, with which Obsidian shares an Electron heritage. It makes sense, therefore, to borrow the key binding that VS Code uses, which is alternate up and down. There are tons more hotkeys and commands that aren't used, so go into the hotkey menu in the Preferences pane and check them out. Number 5, appifying your vault. The last time I said that each vault feels like its own application. The major exception to this is when opening or switching between vaults. When opened, Obsidian skips past the vault switcher and instead opts to open the most recently used vault. This is convenient if you have but one vault. It's annoying when you have many of them, as Obsidian breezes gleefully past me to start loading the wrong darn thing. Say I start math class and I want to open just my math vault. I have to launch Obsidian, wait for it to load the wrong vault, open the vault switcher, which as mentioned before, is not bound to a hotkey by default. Then I have to find the correct vault, wait for that to load, and then close the old vault. This is not a good system. My solution is also not a good system, and it's probably more trouble than you're willing to endure. But if this paper cut cuts you too, here's a band-aid. First, check out Obsidian's URI system, which will probably be more relevant for power users for iOS shortcuts once the app gets out of beta. For now, we care that Obsidian has a universal URL, and we can supply URL arguments to it for a specific vault that we want Obsidian to open. The trick is getting macOS to open that URL, which is the rare perfect case for AppleScript. You're going to want to take this script, linked in the show notes, and copy it into Script Editor, which is a little utility on the Mac for editing scripts, including AppleScript. I'm going to walk through the whole script here, but don't worry, this requires essentially no programming knowledge. First, substitute in your vault name, taking note that any spaces or special characters are going to need to be URL encoded. Secondly, you're going to want to substitute in your app name. Yeah, that's right, app name, because AppleScript can be exported as standalone applications. And what that app name is going to do is tell the application after it's finished launching Obsidian and opening the vault, it should just close itself, right? So you don't have something hanging around. If you export that as an application, probably run only, and you put that in your application folder, clicking it should launch you into exactly the vault that you desire. Of course, these applications are going to look a little bit plain. This is the perfect place to check out Pictogram, which is a Big Sur application that is going to allow you to set the icons of other apps in Big Sur. This is fantastic if you don't like the icons of certain applications and want to set them back to the way they used to be, or if you want to give your newfound Vault applications a little bit of flair with, say, some emoji. This might seem like a lot of work for very little benefit, and it is purely an aesthetic and convenience change, but I found it to be absolutely worth the reduction in friction, and I think it's fun to give my vaults a face and a name in the application menu. Alright, those are the tips I've picked up in a year of using Obsidian. If you have any to recommend to me, do let me know, and I will see you in the next video.